DiannCastiaux, and just a little bit about how I got to here even. Back in the early 90s, I went to a conference given by Matthew Fox, who was the founder of Creation Spirituality. He was a Roman Catholic priest who is no longer a Roman Catholic priest because the church took issue with a lot of the stuff he wanted to do. But it was a life-changing experience for me. They talked about goddesses and gods and things that you don't really hear about in the Christian church too much. And I thought, look at all these Christian people, and they're studying all this pagan stuff. Wow. So that kind of stayed with me, and a few years ago I went to Ireland, and it was called A Celtic Journey, and we visited all the thin places, as they call them, although I think most of Ireland is a thin place, very honestly. And I felt really attracted to that. And Ancestry says I am 14% Irish, despite the French last name. So I think that was the association. And just glad to be here in a place where I can talk about things like this and share them with you, because this is a really important part of my life. May 1st was Beltane. It is a fire Sabbath. It is midway between the vernal equinox in the spring and the summer solstice in June. It's also sometimes called International Workers' Day, and yes, there were some protests going on here and there about that. It is a pivotal spoke on the Celtic wheel with the darkness of winter behind us in the northern hemisphere. The arrival of Beltane symbolizes the return of light, half of the year, a time of procreation, creativity, and abundance of new life. Imbolc, which was February 1st, represented the first movements of life and anticipation in early spring. The vernal equinox represented the first physical signs of spring. Beltane represents the bloom and full promise of summer, the months to come with the arrival of flowers, blossoms, and birth of baby animals. I'm waiting for all the fawns to drop in my backyard, like they always do. And it is directly opposite Samhain, which is the beginning of winter. It's also, in Samhain, the veil between the living and the dead is thinner. In spring, it's the living and nature. In the middle of the season, there is a clear difference compared to the beginning of the season. You see evidence that the wheel has shifted. The days are noticeably longer. The sun sets much later than it did at the spring equinox. It's grown considerably warmer outside, although last week I don't think we would have agreed with that statement. But here at the beginning of May, there is no denying that the earth has been reborn. Beltane comes from the Gaelic word meaning bright fire. Many earth-based cultures had spring festivals that they celebrated at this time. And they were called many different things by the people who inhabited Ireland, Scotland, and Isle of Man, although the Celts are also in Western Europe quite a bit also. They used the cross-quarter days to mark the change of season rather than the solstices and equinox. Some only observed two distinct seasons, summer and winter. The Gaelic Celts were primarily herdsmen, so their Beltane rituals were designed to protect their herds and encourage their growth. Special bonfires were lit and considered to have protective powers. The herdsmen would drive their animals through the smoke of fire, and people would take the embers home to light the fires in their hearths. This was believed to protect them in the months ahead and encourage growth in the animals and in their lives. At Samhain, the veil was between the living and the dead, and now it's between the living. Also, those who believe in them, the fairies and the nature spirits, are becoming active. Offerings would be left at the ancient fairy forts, the wells and other sacred places, in an effort to appease these nature spirits and to ensure a successful growing period. Most of all, Beltane was a time for great gatherings, for celebrations and feasting. In ancient times, it was difficult for large groups of people to gather together in wet winter months. There simply weren't any spaces big enough for a large number of peoples to come together. Beltane was one of the first times that people could come together again. And thinking about, I think they have finally declared the COVID emergency over. So
Yeah.
we are also coming out of a winter where people could not gather. And also remember, these folks did not have central heating in their houses. Winter was much more difficult for them because they didn't have the amenities that we have now in our nice warm homes. Most Beltane celebrations had largely died out throughout the Celtic regions until the mid-20th century, when some of these traditions were revived by the emergence of the modern Wiccan movement. Wicca was founded in the early 20th century. It is a very new spiritual tradition. It uses as its framework a patch of beliefs and celebrations that are actually taken from a number of earth-based cultures that existed throughout Europe. It uses the ancient Gaelic name Beltane for its mid-spring celebration, but many of the beliefs of modern Beltane actually come from ancient German and Roman fertility traditions. For modern Wiccans and neo-pagans, Beltane is a celebration honoring Earth's incredibly fertile energy at this time of the year. Nature has an amazing ability to reproduce itself, and in such stunning and beautiful way. It's important to honor this power that nature holds, a power that we as humans also hold. Right now, when the earth is bursting with fertile energy, it is a powerful time to acknowledge and celebrate the fertility inherent in all of life. Our modern culture has developed such a warped, twisted, very complicated view of sex. Instead of honoring sex, our culture views it as shameful, immoral, something to keep hidden away. It is not something that is commonly discussed, let alone celebrated in our culture. And lately, it's really been under attack. So perhaps now is the time to stir your creative juices. Nurture, plant, and fertilize those seedlings. Embrace that light and bring forth your life. With the arrival of new life and nature's gorgeous display of spring colors in her blooms and blossoms, we are reminded of the joy and vitality of life. It is a gift to be fully present and awake to nature that surrounds us. Are you permitting yourself time to stop and smell the roses? Beltane is the perfect time to be playful, to reconnect with your inner child, and to renew your dance with Mother Nature's bountiful gifts. And on the altar, I have flowers, and I have rosemary. Rosemary is a very important herb in Celtic practices, and I always have a pot of it by my front door because rosemary by your door signifies a strong woman lives here. If you write a journal, here's some questions you might want to ask yourself. What is bringing you great joy right now? And Cheryl, that was wonderful what you said about your joy. What currently lights up your spirit? What do you feel inspired to devote your spring energy to? What parts of yourself do you feel most confident about, and where do you need to boost your self-confidence? What intentions do you want to plant for the coming weeks and months to grow and harvest in the fall? Beltane is time to celebrate all the pleasures of being alive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you, Diann. That was great.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Yes.